Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. Look, this is a bleeding heart. I just now noticed it being up. It wasn't up just a few days ago, and I think it actually just came up since our rain. And for a before shot, which I'm hoping we'll have an after shot also, but oh look, here's a little pansy blooming. They love that that rain. But I'm going to try to get some of my pots back up here. Look, I did go ahead and clean these out, and the sedums are coming up in them, and they look great, and they'll fill out. And if there are any really sparse places, like perhaps that one, I'll probably move them around a little until I fill those out. But they're going to be looking really good if we don't get a frost to take them out. Oh, and look, I tried last time to show you some hosta stems coming up, and they are coming up now. There's some in that pot. I actually see right back here. Right there is a little one coming up too. But this is how it looks right now, and hopefully I'll get some of these pots that I just have laying out here in a heap, get those put back where they'll look nice again, and get the plastic off of things so it can begin to get the air in of course it can get some air now, but where it can get the sunshine and the rain get going again. This is my little seed box, and things are coming up in it too. I was hoping that they would. These are bells of Ireland, if we just don't get a light freeze that kills them. And this of course is a weed right here. See if I can pull that up. Oh, I got the root even. That's great. And then these are, I'm pretty sure these are poppies, the little pale pink poppies. Oh my goodness, what is this? I do not know, but we'll see. Look at that, it's coming up all through there. Oh, that might mean it's some kind of weed. We'll see though. I'm not sure about that. This is a tiny little, either a cabbage or a kale coming up here, and these are the Dusty Millers that overwintered. And then I planted some purple cone flowers and poppies, I believe poppies, several different things right in here, and something is coming up right here, so we'll see what will happen. Spring is my favorite time of the year, even though it's such a contradiction of itself. You have one beautiful warm day, and then the cool settles back in, and then the warm comes back again, and it just can't make up its mind. Which I can't blame it myself. I sometimes think about wishing I had a little bit more of the winter time to rest, but then again I see that spring is upon us, and rest time is pretty much over with for the gardener, which is kind of sad, but it's also wonderful to get to see a whole new season of bloom coming on. Here's a little grape hyacinth. I wouldn't mind having a whole lot of these. They're so cute. They disappear before very long, but while spring is coming on, they're just really looking great. These are little seeds that will break open and fall down, and probably some of them will transplant themselves and go ahead and bloom in this area. And then this is a flowering almond. Pretty soon it'll burst forth in beautiful pink buds. Oh wow, look at our weeping willow. We were out here yesterday and it was bare except for some tiny little buds, and now just look at those little leaves. That's why I love spring. What a wonder. Of course, this is some of the reason I don't love spring, is because of all this dead stuff that needs to be clipped back. I have got to get after this and get it done, which I think I may actually put it off another week, because this week it's supposed to be rainy off and on all week long, which I don't know if there is a gardener or a farmer that says anything bad against the rains, because we always seem to need them. But I think it's just easier to clean up when it's dry, and you can just break off some of this stuff right at the base of the stem there. There's so much to do in the spring that you just can't get it all done all at once anyway. Luckily, most gardeners have a little bit of vision and they can just look at the beauty without seeing all that ugly stuff too. Although sometimes I have to say that I'm guilty of seeing all the ugly stuff and not seeing the beauty, because I know that I'm the one that needs to get out here and get this taken care of. Look, here's another hosta coming up. This one was called White Feather, and its new foliage is almost white, and then it gets a little greener as the season goes on. There's another job for me waiting. This is Autumn Clematis, and it can be so beautiful. This is a little column that my brother gave to me, and he painted this for me. And I'll strip all this off, and it will be back up there again by the end of the summer, if not before. And then in the fall, hopefully it will just be a billow of white bloom. Last year it just kind of bloomed sporadically. That I've seen it before when it just has a billow of white, and I hope to get to show that to you. I see something is coming back in this pot. I think this might be a hollyhock, miniature hollyhock, or verbascum, which would be pretty there. I'm not going to try a whole bunch of calabachoas again this year. I will try some. I bought a bigger pot hoping that, and it's still this type of pot, so they like this coconut liner pot because it drains quickly, but they also want to be consistently moist, and that's hard to get that in a small pot. So I'm going to keep trying until I get that figured out, but I'll put something different in my pots here than I did last year. And this little bush right here is a golden carrier, and it literally stays green all winter long. The stem part does. And then you can see where this is where the pretty yellow bloom has dried up, but there'll be, you probably can tell if you see the little buds on there, they'll be opening back up again, and pretty soon this will be a big pretty billow of yellow. Got my little wrens out and set them out again, and I can see the rain has filled up my bird bath for me. I'm sure the birds appreciate that. And over here across from it is these are my peonies, and also have some clematis growing up the fence row. There's also blackberries at the very end, and grapes there in the middle. And then in between my my peonies, there's daylilies. This one is a clematis or clematis, and of course this is a peony, and I've got to get out here and get this cleaned up too, but you can tell there's little red starts from the peonies coming up. So, and this one right here beside it is another clematis or clematis. I say clematis all the time, so wonder I even catch myself and try to say the right word, which I think it is actually called a clematis, and I always say clematis, but anyway. And this of course is my grapevine. This is another grapevine, and I think this one is a green grape, and the other one is the Concord grapes, which this looks terrible now too, but when I get this cleaned off and all these little poppies start coming up, and then especially when they bloom. Oh, look at this. This is my blackberry, and it's already greening up. So those are the fun things about spring. Just the new growth, the new greenery, and especially the beautiful new blooms. Look at this daffodil bloom. Isn't that pretty? I see that lilies are poking their little heads up also. This is probably the one clematis that I did get trimmed back, and look, it's already putting up little these little ones that were grasped hold of a trellis and go right on up. These will be looking great, and we are hoping to get this painted, this building painted, before these get up too much. That yet remains to be seen too, as we hadn't done it yet, but I'm still hoping to get that done. I see that my little forsythia bush that I planted in the back off of a start of another one that I have in the front is up. Of course, it's so small right now it doesn't make much of a showing, but with that vision again, you get the realization that someday this will be just a big billow of a pretty welcoming spring yellow. Here's another little cluster of the great hyacinths. I wish it were already all cleaned out, but I wish that every spring. I think I'll never get it done every single spring, but then the time comes when finally it is. So I'm just going to have to plod along until I get to that time and try to enjoy the things that you can enjoy, and just do the work it takes to get it to all look pretty. Which it is getting a bit harder for me. I didn't get to start my gardening until I was in my 40s, and even though I've been doing it for over 20 years now, it's been a little step at a time, so it's still, I don't know, it's just that I got started later, and it's just pretty hard on an older person to try to do all the physical stuff that it takes to do, but it's still worth it, and it's still good for me. It's good for a person to use those joints and muscles and stay outside and get some sun, just all the healthy things about it, even though there's definitely things that make us work so hard that we wish we hadn't have overdone. But even though I may let it go for a while or to get some rest, I'll be back out in the garden as long as my health will hold out to do so, just because I just enjoy seeing nature. I feel like you're close to God in the garden. I just do. He's so good, and it's just so good to feel His presence. And I think I'm sharing this with Him, And that's a good feeling too. Oh wow, look at this little pot of sedum. Isn't that beautiful? Of course it too needs cleaning out, but it's so pretty. Here's another little pot of sedum with a tall grass right in the center of it. I think this is going to be pretty this year. I'm hoping it will. It sure has a good start for looking good. But my favorite part is still the part that I've got cleaned out. That's wonderful, and I'll be glad when it's all cleaned out. Of course, then, you know, we'll start the planting, which is fun. It just is. I like it because you get to go see all the new stuff that's going on, coming out at the garden centers, and then also just to see what it will do in your own garden. See if it will make it through the whole season, if it will just look more beautiful than ever, or if it will live a little while and then fizzle out. But either way, it's just a fun thing to do. And then comes the real heat of the season, and of course that part is very hard on the garden and on the gardener, just to try to keep it all watered. My plan this morning is to go ahead and get this wheelbarrow emptied out if I can. And we did have that stuff around this, well, it was a tree, but around this stump now, which we still need to take that out. But I want to get that done and then put them alongside this where they'll look nice. And hopefully I can get that done today. So my wheelbarrow full of stuff is emptied out, and it's all along in rows here in front of my railroad ties. Ready for me to start filling them up. This is a variegated grass in it. We're supposed to get one more frost, and now that I've got the plastic protection off of them, I don't know if that will make it through or not, but maybe it will. It's kind of like a half-hardy plant. You'll see hostas coming up. So soon this will be covered up with hostas. And if I want to get any out to start another start somewhere or to give away, I need to do that right now, because once they get going good, it's hard to try to divide them. But it'd be pretty easy to do that now. There's more hostas in that one. And I just put everything else over here. All my little fairy garden stuff. Last year I had over in front of my maple tree, which is now just a stump. So we may take this stump out, but I'm thinking now about possibly, instead of taking it out, just to maybe just to plant some vine and let it cover it and just keep it over here. I'm not sure, because it'll take it a long time to go ahead and rot and disintegrate and go back to the earth. So I may just go ahead and plant like some autumn clematis. Wouldn't that be pretty if just a big billow of white blooms would be on it? But that's just a thought. I'm not sure. It would be nice to just go ahead and take it down too. But as you can see, it is pretty huge. So it's going to be a chore to take down, I think. But I pretty much put out all of the little garden art. Not quite all of it. There's a couple of bags that I didn't get around to, but everything else I did. And then these were, last year these were red pots. These are little blue pots now, and I traded them out because my red pots were just the clay pots, or ceramic. Actually, they were ceramic pots, and they broke. They've been breaking and cracking for a few years, and I just had glued them back together with some spray glue, which kept them sorta, but I gave up on them this year, and these look much better. And this is just little sedum inside here. This is the miniature sedum. It's called Thundercloud. There's a bigger one called Thunderstorm, but this is the Thundercloud, and it just has little white flowers on it when it blooms, but it's a pretty little green plant even when it's not in bloom. And of course the sedums, you don't have to worry about them not getting enough water because they don't take a lot of water. I do need to still clean my little fairy gardens up a bit, but that will be for another day. So I put these out a lot deeper than I have. I've got an extra row started here, plus my fairy gardens and my strawberry pot that I want to put impatiens in. These have little, well, this one is a little weed right here. But these others are actually Bells of Ireland, and I hope they make it. I may even come out here and cover that up. We're supposed to have a frost Saturday night. Hopefully it won't be a very long time when it goes below freezing, and hopefully it will still be all right and not kill anything, but we'll just have to wait and see. So most all of these little pots need flowers in them, but these little pansies are still looking good. Of course they're dirty from the rains, but they're pretty. I'll probably fill most of these up with impatiens and maybe some coleus. I love coleus and impatiens together, and they do well together, and usually you can find some that their colors just play off of each other wonderfully too. So this is Wednesday, and we're not having church tonight. I think almost everybody is trying to follow the president's request to be in smaller groups, not to go ahead and cancel the things that are in larger groups. And so we're going to not be going to church tonight or Sunday. I think a lot of the churches are closing for a while. The schools are closing for a while. I think sometime in April, so hopefully it will make a difference. We have a little wren family moving into this little birdhouse right here. I totally love the little wrens. They're one of my favorite birds because they just look like little toy birds. And I have not taken this down yet. I hate to. I still want to rest, so I think my little bear might also, but we're going to have to give it up soon, I'm sure of it. Look how much this has grown since I showed it to you when it was just the little red And now it's so big, and I need to remember to cover this too, because look, it has buds. It has at least 4 buds that I can see there. I hate to lose our little flowering quincy and our forsythia bushes to a early, or actually it would be a late frost for us. So, but that could happen. So yesterday was March the 19th, and spring came on the calendar, but winter came to the garden. I've got some things covered, like my seed box over here, just a few little things. I didn't cover many, but hopefully the ones I did will be back from the root, and hopefully I'll save a few of the ones that were already looking really good.